Good evening, Vicksburg. I'm going to call the 7 o'clock meeting for Monday, April 25th, 2022 to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now have a moment of silence. Mr. Mallory, if you take roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Trustee Olson.
Here.
Trustee Wagner.
Here.
Trustee Reister.
Here.
Trustee Holmes.
Here.
Trustee Merrill.
Here.
President Pro Tem Keller.
Here.
President Frisbee is excused on a work event out of the state.
Okay, next item, we have an agenda in front of us. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Just want to make note, which all council members are aware of, that you received a copy electronically of the warrant reports and the checks. I have handed those out in hard copy as well. And anyone on our packet distribution list, I made sure got a copy of those today, so that they have been submitted and are in front of you for the consent agenda.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no additions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Reister, so moved.
Olson, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next up, we have scheduled appearances. We have Frederick's Construction to give an update on Village Hall survey and recommended next steps.
Yeah, so if I can have Mr. Frederick come up and introduce your team, and that will give me time to bring a screen share for the PowerPoint.
Absolutely. Good evening. So at our last meeting, I presented the plan forward, and happy to introduce Kurt Penny from Eckert Wardell. Their firm is partnering with Frederick on the architectural evaluation of all the potential options. So Kurt will be presenting tonight.
All right, and both Kurt and Mike be available for questions that you have at the end of the presentation.
All right, thanks for the opportunity this evening. Frederick and Eckert Wardell have been working the last couple months, and first we started with a survey, and then based on the survey results, we started to look at site evaluation and conceptual site plans. If we can move to page 2, please.
Sure.
So we sent a survey out to 28 people, and we got responses from 27, so very good participation. As part of that survey, we wanted to look at opinions on renovation versus new construction, what the roles and responsibilities are of the staff, and what the staff needs are for spaces and offices and amenities, and then also kind of the community engagement piece, so how that all plays into the location of a new village hall. If we go to the next page. So we surveyed on 4 different opportunities. So the first one was to purchase an existing building in the village and renovate. 20% of the survey results came back that would be their number one option. The next option was to purchase a new site and construct a new building. That got 19% of the votes. Third option was to renovate and expand the existing building. That was at 16%, so that's the lowest option. The highest option was to utilize the existing site. construct a new building and demolish the existing building. So that gave us some data to move forward with as we looked at these opportunities. So when we start to look at location and site, we looked at a bunch of different opportunities, and as we get into this presentation, it really came down to 3 different sites. When we were looking at the opportunities, we wanted to look at existing private buildings. We also looked at private vacant property and then also village property. So we did look at different options within the village. Part of our evaluation also, it was important that the building was visible to the public. Also, very important, we thought, being a walkable location. And so we took all those things into consideration, and also adjacency to using other amenities like parking and not recreating new parking lots. If we could go to the next slide. So the 3 sites that we really brought down our final evaluation to is obviously option A, 126 Kalamazoo. So your existing site of the Village Hall. You own the property. It's highly visible within town. There's adjacent parking that can be utilized for overflow meetings. So there's a lot of positives of staying in that location where people are very familiar with where you're located. The next opportunity was adjacent to the business park. So there's a piece of property that's still available there.
Where's that piece?
That is just...
Old farmhouse and barn.
Thank you.
So again, there is some visibility. It's not very walkable. It's not within the center of your community. There is some existing demolition that would have to happen. So again, there's pros and cons to all these. If we can move to option C. And then finally, we looked at the fire department downtown as an option. So there's pros and cons to that. The building, we feel, is not large enough for the program that you need for Village Hall. And then also, it doesn't really allow us the opportunity to go 2 stories. And we feel parking is a little bit of an issue at that site. So, really, Mike and I and the rest of the team, really from those 3 options, narrowed it down to 2. So we wanted to look at your current property within the village, where your existing hall is, and then also the business park option. So the thing that's really enticing about the site that you already have with the building, actually if we could go to the next slide, is we did a quick conceptual overlay. We have not got into final design. This is kind of a block diagram to show what the possibilities are. But with the program that we're looking at, we're somewhere in the 6,500 to 7,500 square feet. So this site allows you to keep the current Village Hall up and running, construct a new building, and then demolish. So you're not out of business at all. You can keep the village in business. This does allow high visibility coming into town from Richardson. Obviously, it's already adjacent to Kalamazoo and some of the existing parking lots that you have, so it's highly visible. We also talked about the security of the water tower also, so having that Village Hall there and adjacent to that water tower was a key point. So, any questions about this site? All right. And then we looked at the parcel right next to the business park. So again, same square footage, 6,500 to 7,500. Really, this site is, it's almost too large for what you need. It probably could be better utilized, stay on the tax rolls. So It does work here. It doesn't have the frontward facing kind of architecture or engineering that we are kind of looking at providing to the village as far as that exposure on Perry Street. But would this work? Absolutely, but I believe our team's recommendation at this point is really we would recommend moving forward with a design on your existing site. You're not buying property, you're not taking property off the tax roll, so those are kind of the pros and cons. The next steps are, as part of that survey, we got a lot of data on what's required for the village offices and also the police department. Just a few key points here. I won't roll down through all the offices, but we wanted a chamber meeting hall that was about 25 to 30 people. We know that with the technology that we have today, a lot of these are broadcast and on Zoom, so we didn't want to build for Easter Sunday. We wanted a nice size hall, but if there was an issue that came up, it could be relocated to another site. So we didn't feel like the village wanted to be in the business of renting out space and hosting large receptions or wedding receptions. So again, a nice size that even could potentially have a partition in it to be made into two smaller conference rooms. Again, we looked at some of the spaces that might be nice as far as a small conference room and some of the private spaces that we would need. And then the next slide, one of the big things that came out of the police department survey is that we wanted to have its own separate entrance. So that came out very strongly in the survey. So that site, that's your current site, really sets up very nicely for this. And having the police department very visible in that location is quite nice. Some of the big things with the police department were having the squad room, small locker rooms were very important with a shower, and then providing some of the spaces that they just don't really have good space for now, as far as evidence room, uniform storage, interview rooms. And then, of course, both entities really need some type of storage, and we can look at those opportunities. As far as next steps, we're obviously here today presenting some of the recommendations of the site concepts that we developed, presenting some of the survey results. We'd like to get some guidance from you folks on moving to that next step of selecting a site so that we could move into conceptual design. That next step would be the Eckert Wardell team would go into looking at the floor plan concepts, the architecture that we'd like to see, whether it be something that relates to downtown, something that's very modern, or a mix. So that's where we want to get input from you all, the staff, even the residents of the village moving forward. And then based on those concepts, once we get through some of the plans that we all agree on, Mike's team at Frederick would put a cost analysis on that, create a nice little package that would come back to you folks for approval to move to the next steps. After we get approval on that, then we would go into what's called construction documents, developing all the engineering and technical documents that Mike needs to bid it out and construct. So,
One I think it's important to add, if it can, is on the next step of the concept type plans, that after their team takes that information in, I foresee two, possibly three, but two options coming coming back in the building concept. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
There might be three
Right.
different facades and interior spaces.
Yeah, our
One site, but two or three different versions
Yes.
of what it might look like.
yeah, we take a lot of
Good
pride.
collaboration is what we're after.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in providing options. We're not gonna just bring you the option that we think's right for you. Is we want that input and give you guys choices on what the building should look like and function like.
And I think an important key to this is we did look at, could we renovate the existing building? As you know, that building
Hey, Mike,
yes.
can I ask that you come up, because the mic will pick you up, and then people, we have, I don't know, 9 on YouTube
Yep,
and
no
some are.
problem.
Thank
So
you.
to start over, we did take a look at, could we renovate the existing space? And to do so, we think that we would recommend that we would remove the roof because we have short ceiling heights. We would take majority of the outside walls down to reconfigure it. And it's slab on grade, so anything we did for plumbing, electrical that we wanted to bury under that slab, we would have to cut and remove and replace. So when you take that all into account, you start to lose some efficiencies, and you start to lose, spatial. If you look at where Kurt's team plotted the new building, obviously, that would be a drastic change from what their recommendation is. But it was a strong consideration. We just didn't feel it would be much of a return on your investment when basically we were keeping basically the foundations. So, but I wanted you to hear that. Thanks.
And if the council has questions, we'll keep Mike here instead of you.
Yeah, we'll open up for questions.
Thing is,
We'll,
Just stay there.
we'll
Mike.
open up for
our
questions.
biggest thing is just to capture.
We'll open up for questions. Trustee Holmes, and then I think Trustee Merrill had a question after that.
The question I had is that we'll see three options.
Is your mic on?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to get three options, which is great. My question is, will that be based on like a good, better, best, like cost structure, or help me understand what the three variations are gonna show us besides the color scheme with one or the other, or is that what it is?
It would be, in my mind, let me jump in real quick. It would be in, my typical experience is facade, the outside look of the building. There might be three versions of that. And then the floor plan of where's the two entrances, where are the inner offices, how are we daylighting the space, things of that nature is what we would want to bring back. And there again, it's a collaboration because, what we work with the police department and the board and then the staff, everyone wants to be able to have input on that. So, that makes sense?
Is that
Like
input?
spot on that?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
You want me to come back to that site, Mike?
yeah, please.
Is that input you mentioned, is that part of the building committee that's in the time frame? There will be staff, I would imagine, that would be involved in that. Is that?
Typically, we would see the municipality would put together a building site committee that would be invested in that conversation. There again, Kurt took the liberty of showing just a shape. It's a box right now, so.
Yeah, not designed yet.
All right, Trustee Merrill, you had a question?
I know you probably want to have it as ADA compliant as possible. And
Required, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So if you had a bunch of evidence to store, it's probably not fast-moving stuff. Would you be potentially putting stuff in a second level or not? No way, no how?
We even.
Like in
we-
the peak of something?
Yeah, we even looked at potentially a basement under this building, depending on there's some due diligence that has to be done relative to soil borings to see where the water table is. But it's quite possible there could be a basement for secure storage.
In on the example of an evidence room, that evidence room is utilized every week, and there's auditing procedures and oversight on how that would be built. So that wouldn't be limited access, if you will, in an attic is where my mind went when you mentioned that. So there'll be other record storage type capabilities, but we have a new village clerk looking at all that electronically. But specific to the evidence room, it's a lot more fluid than the general public is aware.
Okay.
Yeah. And there again, that's part of the next process, is you would sit with the police chief and discuss, square foot needs and requirements. We may find that we don't need a basement. There's a lot of conversation to be had.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, we discussed the idea of taking a tour of a few other built projects just to get some ideas flowing and get you guys comfortable with, what the design might look like moving forward.
Yeah, we did a project for Milton Township, and I like the flow of it because it's very easy to secure public traffic through the building. So it may or may not work for this village, but that's one idea. And then, of course, we all know that Schoolcraft has built one, and I've never been in that facility, so maybe there's something that we can learn there. We want to make sure that and that's one of the reasons, if you jump to our schedule, it looks like there's a lot of time, but with supply chain issues, et cetera, there's really not. We need to look at getting this schedule in front of everybody, getting some dates that we all agree to, and then moving forward so that we don't have a winter start, if you will, for example. So
I think it's important to add on that. Tonight we're going to look for council support just only on the approval of moving to the next, and that is the building concept. Focused, and instead of investing for dual building concepts, meaning at two different locations, concentrate on the recommendation of option A, where the water tower site. And so that's what we're looking for tonight. In each one of these processes would have the ability for community input and ultimately council decision by majority to move forward. So I think we need to be clear, in no way does what we're looking for tonight mean we're absolutely turning dirt. We're just continuing what we discussed prior, a path of due diligence to look where we can best invest into Vicksburg's future as it relates to a village hall.
Trustee Reeser, you had a statement?
Yeah. I would just like to put this out. I know that this is on down the line, but I would really like to have in the design considered, this is a Victorian village. And we are trying to, the buildings downtown, we're trying to bring them back into a Victorian era. So I would love to see that happen with this new building, so that it doesn't look like some modern thing that was just stuck in the town. I'd really like to have you consider that when you're designing.
yeah, we've had those conversations, exact
Good.
conversations.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it out there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
Trustee Wagner?
So I know that we're looking pretty strongly, based on the data, at the constructing on existing property with the option A. But when I was looking at the figures, combining the first and second place responses, that the purchase new site and construct a new building came in pretty close there on percentage, lumping those two in. Just curious what sites we might have looked at for purchase. I know that that's usually a more reserved conversation for purchase of property, but.
We looked at current available sites, which are none. And then we looked at potential where we would initiate a site to be, as well as to meet the other data that came forward on the location. And Mike can go into further on that, but the essence, it was considered in and correct me where I'm wrong, but these three options were kind of at the top of the list, mainly because of the village already ownership in those parcels of property. So you're eliminating quite a bit of cost on property purchases.
Right.
We had discussions, you know, advantages, disadvantages of buildings that could be available on an occupied type setting. So it was looked at, but there was no available. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, so when we did the survey, there was no available property that was appropriate for the size and space that we need. Since then, there has a lot that, 1.3 acres across the street from Sunset School that is for sale. With the setback of the requirement from DNR for the lake, it really minimizes what can be done with that. And I think there would be, I don't think it'd be a good fit, first and foremost. And other than that, there's really limited opportunities for a lot of that size that you know, we start looking at checking boxes. Do we have a municipal parking lot that's currently close to the site? We have 2. So that's a big bonus because we don't want to pave over all the grasses as we move into the 21st and 22nd, 23rd century. So we like that. You know, is it an easy transition for the village? We felt it is an easy transition for the village. There is some sense of, there again, security with having a village building next to your water tower. You know, because of the building being occupied, you'll get a sense of something's happening a lot quicker than if maybe that lot was sold at a later date. So, you know, it's, as you know, Vicksburg is, there's not a lot of property in town of sizable lots. So that'll continue to be a challenge.
No, thank you. I was just looking to get some more of that rationale there, so
Yep.
that sounds great.
Yep.
Trustee Olson, you have a question at all?
Not really a question, but I know that a couple of sites came up in discussion recently. The soccer field down by the laundromat and then the lot across from the Shell station at Silver Street. Were those even considered at any point?
Yes, I can answer, and Mike probably has that, but on this is from my experience as the Athletic Boosters president on, if you're talking about the property just north of the Vicksburg Administration Building,
Yes.
that's the soccer.
Yeah.
That's owned by the schools.
Yeah.
And it's in their plans, at least as of a few years ago, they have the lacrosse fields there and the middle school activities. So it's also not controlled by the village. And knowing, I know their plans, like I said, from my involvement in the athletic boosters of the property, and it's currently being used for that.
Yeah.
On long-term planning, part of the, this is jumping to another topic, so I'll be real quick. We're also long-term, which is a 20-year vision. If you extended Richardson Street all the way through, those are a factor point in something like that. On the lot across from the Shell station, all my experience there is I have had people inquire, reference more of a development for commercial activity, and there's some restrictions there. But in a general sense, what impacts as well, part of my participation is a reluctance to take potential tax generating revenue, especially in a commercial corridor, off the tax rolls for a municipal building. So when you impact that, it factored in to the industrial park, the value, and we know this from exercise a few months ago, value of industrial property that can hook up to infrastructure becomes part of that equation between option A and option B as well. So it was discussed, but those are really the big talking points on the properties you've mentioned, Mr. Olson.
Yeah. Okay.
All set?
Yeah.
Any other questions by the council? No?
That was easy.
What we're looking for is a motion in support just to move forward with the building concepts for option A, what we're kind of labeled the water tower or current location.
Basically, we're picking a site is what we're doing.
And approving the ability to move forward on the
Correct,
building concepts.
correct. We're not writing any checks or anything or turning dirt. It's just the concept and the site. So, with no further questions, I'd like to have someone put forth a motion in support of option A. So I'll let you phrase it how you wish.
And to move forward, what we would receive is, because there is an investment to receive those building concepts, to have Craig's team, that dollar figure, I believe, we'll be able to put in front of the council by next Monday.
That's correct.
So right now, we want to kind of have them move forward, know what's going forward, give us that cost estimate, and the money expenditure would be approved next Monday.
And that's for pre-construction services is what
Correct.
that is.
Yeah, I didn't mean to
Preliminary
misspeak
design.
myself. What I meant was, we're not buying a building tonight is what I meant by that. So that's where I wanted to go with it. I realize that you guys don't work for free, and I understand that, but, so what is the pleasure of the council?
President Pro Tem Keller, I move to approve the site plan and building concepts to be moved forward and funded into the next step of the project, per option A.
We have a motion. Do we have support?
Trustee Olson, I support.
Is there any discussion? If not, we'll have a roll call vote.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
President Pro Temp Keller.
Yes.
Okay, and we will identify the dollars and have that come in front of the council next Monday. So
Thank
thank
you.
you, thanks for putting it
Thank you
together.
for your
Thank you,
time.
gentlemen.
Much
Appreciate it.
appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Agenda point number 7, we have public officials' appearances.
None scheduled, and none in attendance or on the Zoom connection.
Okay. We'll move on to number 8, citizens' comments. This is for agenda items only. And
If we can, I do have some on Zoom, so if we can go there first.
that's fine. I was just going to say, if you're on a Zoom call.
So, I believe, if you wish to speak and you are on Zoom, on a computer, you just, have that cursor moved across your screen, and down at the bottom, there'll be a raised hand. And just click on that raised hand, and we'll, give you the ability to speak to the council. So give a few seconds for that to happen. And if you're on a phone call or a telephone, you would hit *9 to indicate that. So I'm not seeing that occur, so then I'd suggest moving into the room.
Okay. Anybody in person would like to make a comment on the agenda? Okay. Moving right along. We're now at the approval of the general consent agenda. This includes the minutes of the regular scheduled council meeting of April 18th, 2022. The warrant report, which was for $335,468.26. And event requests, rental requests, this one was already staff approved it was caught between meetings. It was for the Vicksburg Wrestling Club. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Merrill, so moved.
Wagner, I'll support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Wagner,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
President Pro Temp Keller.
Yes. Okay, we're down to number 10, Village Council action items. First one up is the 2022-2023 Village Proposed Road Work. Mr. Mallory, would you give us a 30,000-foot overview on this?
Yeah, real quick, have provided documentation in the summary reference, Michigan Public Acts, from 1950, or Public Acts 1951. We quite often refer to this as Act 51 dollars. It is state of Michigan dollars that they provide to municipalities, both dividing up in major roads and local streets. As you can see, within the village, we have 21.83 miles of paved roadway. There are 14.53 miles of local streets and 7.3 miles of major streets. I've listed off, going back to the 15-16 fiscal year, the amount of dollars that have been invested in major and local streets. And as well, the next paragraph listing since going back to 2013 and 14, the amount of general fund local tax dollars used. What you'll note is beginning with the 17-18 fiscal year, as part of our goal to continue to look at pots of money in revenue streams that we can utilize, but prior to local tax dollars being utilized, we have concentrated on a plan that strictly uses state of Michigan money to invest in our roadways. We have, in the past couple years, we felt or feel has added to the maintenance program, where you'll see a couple years, the 2 to 4 year mark after we mill and fill, which is milling existing asphalt off the roadway, filling it with 3 inches of fresh asphalt. Within 2 to 4 years after that, we'll come in and seal the cracks that naturally occur in Michigan. That's to prevent water from seeping in, and under our conditions of the winters here in Michigan, that freezing and thawing effect really has a wear and tear on the roads. As well as we have used some chip seal programs in the past to extend the life of the roadway due to the money and all the different revenue streams that come about. So getting to what we're recommending, again, this is for the 22-23 fiscal year that begins in July 1st. What tonight's action would be is allow me to enter contracts. We have solicited bids. We've really focused on utilizing Kalamazoo, the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County's program, and in the crack fill, chip seal, and fog seal. The road that we feel the investment is best needed on, as you can see, is North Boulevard Street, V Avenue, North and South Legia Drive, and then to begin to invest in the Trillium neighborhood, both at the entrance on Trillium Boulevard, up 1,300 feet, which basically takes you to the roundabout, I'll call it, where the gazebo is, and then Gardena Avenue, which is, if you come off of V Avenue, is the first road you can turn left on, and taking it to the curve. And that has to do with the amount of available money in local streets. Also, next Monday, we'll put in front of the council we have located a grant that becomes available in 2023, so it'd be part of our 23-24 fiscal year, but we'll seek council approval to put in for this, and it's for municipalities under 10,000 population for matching grants for local streets up to $250,000. So we want to make sure that we have a decent amount of money for that grant potential to match. So that also factored in to the amount of dollars we wanted to invest in the local streets this year, thus giving us the best opportunity to have a real good impact next year. And our streets, as the history provided the council, the neighborhood south of the high school was completely done. Every roadway in that neighborhood, all local streets, was completely done 2 years ago. Twice in the last 7 years, C.B. McDonald Way has a substantial investment into it. In 2016, Mr. Huey's plat off of V Avenue had the entire neighborhood done, and it's gone through the crack fill as well. So now we're just moving to 22nd Street with a plan. But the dollars, we have money to cover these investments out of our existing state of Michigan money. And again, we're seeking council approval that I can enter into the contracts with the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County for the listed roadways I just spoke about, as well as the TAR just want to make sure I say the right street. Have the asphalt restoration, that the overband crack sealing would occur on Wilson and at the condos off of Angels, the condominium complex. Again, and that's to fill those cracks that have naturally occurred, to ensure we limit as much water as possible from getting under the roadway. So pause there and be happy to answer any questions.
President Frisbee, I have a question. I'm sorry.
I don't look
Oh, I'm
anything like
sorry.
him, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Trustee
I'm sorry,
Olson.
Carl.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Trustee Olson.
Yeah. Jim, when are we looking at doing the Trillium plat in that area?
It would, after I contact the road commission, they came out and gave us the estimate, we would then fit in their schedule and I'll be able to communicate that back.
Okay, so we're looking at a couple of months down the line. We're not.
Yeah,
looking-
it will be after July 1st for
Okay.
certain, because it's in that fiscal year.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and I'm confident it will be this calendar year, but
Yeah.
after July 1st,
Yeah, okay.
so.
Sorry, Carl.
You're okay. Any other questions of Manager Mallory? Okay. Trustee Holmes?
Jim, you may have covered this, but just to make sure I understand this. So Act 51 is restricted funds that are specific to either major roads or local streets, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Why does the state then continue to give us more funds for major streets than local streets?
One, multiple factors. The major streets are a built-up asphalt because of truck traffic and that type. So it's a grade of asphalt that will cost more. And I believe, and I stand corrected, but there is constitutional money that comes to and it's tied, could be to the legislation of the gas tax and that, but it's a formula that the states put together.
Okay.
We could petition to use money in a local street, but it's an uphill type situation.
Right. All money's good money. To the point that, I mean, when you look at our community, we obviously have, more local streets.
Twice as much local streets as, but your main arteries into town, and it's the wear and tear on those streets
Sure.
are replaced at a more frequent level. Like, we're predicting 20-plus years on the neighborhood to the south of the high school. And on V Avenue, what we're talking about tonight, and anyone that's been on V or Boulevard, that was paved in the spring of 2016, is only 6 years old. And you can see the shape that's in. And in the past year, and that was part of, we filled those cracks at least 2 years ago, maybe 3, has really taken a beating. So in that street, to mill it off again and refill it would probably be $400,000+.
Wow. Just a final comment. I mean, for those of us that live in Michigan, we know that if you have cracks, water gets in there, winter comes, it expands, and you get a pothole. So I think the suggestion that we're going is not only fiscally responsible, considering the limitations we have, but I think it's also, I mean, it makes all the sense in the world if we're trying to maintain, you know, the longevity of our roads.
Yeah, and part of the factors that go into this is, as we'll see as we go through the budget process, this is how we have the available dollars to put in 3 pickleball courts through the general fund that are public and Parks and Rec. We'll have that money for those investments. If we were to use, some might say, well, why don't we throw another $100,000? And if the council says that, I'll do what the majority wants, but my advocation would be, you're probably not gonna get that Parks and Rec type
Sure.
community that we've also attempted to invest in as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, what's the pleasure of the council? I'll entertain a motion on this.
President Pro Tem Keller, I make a motion that we,
If I can, because I'll take responsibility, I usually, it would be I'm looking for a motion that will allow me to enter contracts with the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County and Asphalt Restoration Incorporated for the listed out roads.
I
So-
apologize. Actually, if you remember, this is for 2023 fiscal year.
Yeah, 22,
But-
23.
Right, but he needs to enter into these contracts now, so that's why he's asking for support from the council. So my apologies on not clarifying that. So at that point, now, can I entertain a motion for approval on this?
President Pro Tem, so moved.
Do I have support?
Trustee Wagner, I support.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Seems how I fumbled through that really well, so. We'll take a roll call vote.
Trustee Reister.
Yes.
Trustee Wagner.
Yes.
Trustee Olson.
Yes.
Trustee Merrill.
Yes.
Trustee Holmes.
Yes.
Trustee Keller.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, at this time, it's one of the few benefits and pleasures of the village president, which I don't have except in this instance, that I get to nominate somebody to a board. So we have 2 positions that I'm going to nominate tonight. The first one is for the library board, and this individual is Sue Frisbee. So, Mr. Mallory, do you have a little brief introduction on Mrs. Frisbee?
Yeah, I believe everyone in the room knows Sue. She's a lifelong Vicksburg resident, minus a few years stint in the Louisiana area while Tim was working down there. Graduated from Vicksburg High School, has been involved in the community, currently works for the Vicksburg Community Schools, is a incredible supporter of our youth, as well as the availability of the library. This has been a passion for hers that she has wanted to become involved in more, and truly look forward to her representing the village of Vicksburg on the library board. I will note, as a side note, it's being part of the process before June 30th. We have 3 positions on the library board, and our other 2 positions will need to be filled before June 30th. Eric over at the library and I spoke today, and he'll get confirmation if the 2 people in the positions want to continue, but we'll also post those positions through our social media and go through 3 council meetings so if there's others that want to become represent the village on the library, we'll have opportunities for that here in the next 2 months.
Thank you, Jim. All right, I have put forth a motion to nominate Sue Frisbee to the library board, and I have support.
Reister, support.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The second one is for Parks and Rec, and this individual that I'm going to nominate, her name is Jessica Cox. Mr. Miller, do you have a brief?
Yeah, Jessica's married to Bill Cox. Bill Cox graduated Vicksburg High School in 1985. They returned to the community in 2014 and have lived within the village since 2014. Have a child that attends Vicksburg school system, and Mrs. Cox has expressed interest in becoming involved in the village government, and we approached her about the position at Parks and Rec, and very enthusiastic and looks forward to becoming a part of that.
Very good, thanks, Jim. All right, I put forth the nomination for Jessica Cox to be on the Parks and Rec Committee. Can I have support?
Julie Merrill's supporting.
Thank you. Is there a discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We will now move along to the village manager's report. Mr. Mallory?
Sure, construction updates. Everything has been placed in ground that is scheduled to, and the build back of mills in Washington and Michigan are underway. So that is moving forward. Prep down at the Main Street Washington intersection for sidewalk improvements or replacement, I should say, in the road. We should see here hopefully by the end of next week. Also, looking at the downtown road striping being in place the week of May 23rd. We have, I don't know if we received them, but I know if we haven't, it'll be in the next couple of days. We did order, if any of you have seen the sign that we had out in front of the hardware store that indicated parking for the hardware, we had 2 of those signs made up for handicap parking, and we're going to place this week, I believe, they'll be in where we can place one down on Main Street by the Rise and Dine and another on Prairie Street. Certainly we're hoping for warmer weather here in Michigan in April. Haven't received it, but those signs were ordered and should be arriving, so at least that would be indicated. And we'll have those out where the permanent markings will be as well. So that's going to happen. Any questions reference the downtown project?
Hey, Jim, notice today the one-way for the alley behind the North Prairie, or north of Prairie on the east side there, that the sign that says that it's only a one-way is leaning onto the fence and it's no longer visible from the roadway.
Okay.
So we've seen a few vehicles going in the wrong direction on that alley, so just noticed that this
Yeah,
morning.
and as always, we have staff on the call, so I'm sure Randy Skippers is taking note, and we'll get that sign uprighted so people know not to go the wrong way, so I appreciate that.
Trustee Holmes, you have a question?
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. I don't know what to call them, the raised areas that are down within the community. I should know this, but is that what they're going to be? Are they planters? Is that what we're going to, is that what this?
You're talking about out like on the sidewalk
Yeah,
for
the
raised curbs?
streetscapes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those will all be plantings. They've been working on to ensure that the irrigation is correct and the power
Okay.
is operating. Late last week, they put actual topsoil in all the locations. We should see, hopefully, by mid-May, trees installed and the plantings. A lot of those plantings will have big pots that are already designed for that irrigation. So some of the black tubes you see coming out of a hole in front of the hideaway on Prairie Street, those will be big pots that hold flowers, and those tubes are irrigation tubes to have them self-watered. Everything should be self-watered. There's 4 more lights streetlights that need to be installed, more down Michigan and Mills area, and we're waiting for that construction. So, but the raised, to answer your questions, are all plantings.
Okay. I wasn't sure if Sid talked you into artwork or something. That's why I wanted to make sure I understood. One just quick question, to the degree that you can, is there any update on the house that was damaged by fire?
We've been in communication with the owner of the property. It's going through the natural process of the evaluation of the insurance, state fire marshal, and that was all coordinated through Chief McMillan, and his team came and they're now compiling the results of their on-scene investigation. And I have sent an email to our internal team, which includes building permits and inspections along with the village attorney to ensure that we have the proper oversight and what options, if they're presented to us, that we provide the current owner in any movement into the future the proper answers to, zoning, how it's impact of zoning if a property is sold. Certainly has to be updated under current zoning. So I'm waiting on those answers in a generic sense. But if the owner, as we move forward, has more specific questions, the team's all prepped to provide the answers on behalf of the village. We've just, pardon me? Yeah, the last point I was going to make was, and the owner's been extremely good to work with, we just requested, and it's been done, that the building is not open to casual entry. It's on a nightly check with the police department, and the cement stairs that go up, if they weren't taken out today, will be removed because we decided to make sure the sidewalk's good, and that can be dealt with in the future. There's also, beyond tomorrow's agenda reference, the owner contacted a company to bring in the sewer because that was scheduled, I believe, the day or 2 days after the fire occurred. It was on a schedule that the sewer from that house was hooked up to Taco Bob's and then went to the main. Well, when we put in the new main, we put a lead to that building, but that building owner was investing in connecting it, would be required to. So that is going to be done. And Randy's in on that communication and has communicated with the sidewalk crew to not be putting sidewalk down. And he named the company that she had hired to do it, but that's all in the process and should occur this week.
Thank you.
Trustee Wagner?
Jim, and I just remembered this, I ran into a member of the fire crew down there, and they were actually curious if we could do anything to help prevent any damage for the new planters, because when they reel out their hoses and things like that in the area, they said they've damaged plants in those corner flower bed areas before. They just wanted to float the idea if there's anything we might do to prevent that. They just brought it up. They wanted to be good stewards of the property.
They need to be more careful where they lay the hoses.
That's what I thought, but.
Answer.
Yeah, yes.
Any other questions? Okay, move along to DPW barn.
Yes, the actual, the oil separator and drain was installed last Friday. So we should hope we have the floor poured, which is 6 inches, and then in a specific section, 8 inches, which could ultimately in the future accommodate a lift, and we're talking about lifting plow trucks and vac trucks in that. So we're hoping that whether or not it's this week, but certainly by next week, that's poured. Randy is ensuring that the communication is with the subcontractor on the concrete, that it is poured to the specified level in requirements of those specs. So we should see that happen, and confident that project will be completed by the end of May for sure. since he's in the room, he's heard me in person, but I'd like to publicly thank Mike, Frederick, and I've mentioned this, I don't know, I think every meeting, because even today I can talk. It's just takes the worry off of me on some of these on all the projects that Fredericks is involved in. They have the storm system in. Gutters will be going up relatively soon. We're using a local company, Mr. Gutter, for that. But his crew got all that in. We had a couple things that, as usual, when we dig in this town, we found. We found the base of the old water tower and some engineering things, but they were just excellent to deal with on that. So moving forward, and if anyone has a question on the barn, be happy to answer. But on Oswald Park, you'll see they poured cement around where the fireplace will be today. It's a colored cement to match the colored cement downtown. And as we move forward, it's another example of excellent communication on Mike's team. They got a hold of me on a situation, explain the different options and their recommendation, what their recommendation was based on. At the time, I legitimately was in other meetings, and when I called them, I gave them about a 5-minute notice that I'd be down at the park, and lo and behold, about 4 minutes later, Greg and Morgan showed up to take me through it on location. So getting an absolute, there's not a day that's gone by in the last few weeks that I don't have someone contacting me and want me on positive about that and what it's turning into now that they can physically see it. Alex has worked well on the sign that the council approved for the Oswald. Again, Mike's team, we were the cause of throwing this wrench into it, of saying, hey, we know one option to put that sign, but we'd really like it in the middle of those columns. And being a reader of non-verbal body language, I knew that wasn't probably the easiest request, but we worked through that today, and so we're moving forward there. And Alex will work with the maker of the sign and Mike's crew to ensure that's done. And again, Alex brought Mr. Bill Oswalt down there, and other Oswalt family members have seen the sign and where it should go. Will let you know, I believe I emailed after the last meeting, that sign is going to be all black. The picture I sent out had some green in it. The decision was made due to where the light posts are in that park, as well as the color. There's going to be some multiple posts, I think 5, that will hold light. The light strings they're all black, so a decision was made to keep that sign all black, matching the traffic signal, the street lights, and the light and the signs in the park. So I just wanted to make you aware that there's that difference in the picture that I sent. But be happy to answer any questions on those.
Any further questions for Manager Mallory on anything that's listed there?
I will let you know we have targeted communication will go out by the end of business on Wednesday for the ribbon cutting for downtown, as well as Oswalt Park, to take place Thursday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. It's Thursday, June 2nd at 4 p.m. Alex worked his magic again. We're going to have, sometimes I wonder if you can hear me in those ear things, but I'm pretty confident we're going to have a food truck rally on Main Street on that Thursday, and some other pop-up things happen to really kick off this downtown summer season. So June 2nd at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
Trustee Holmes?
You know, Jim, it's just, I think all of us just love to hear, the progress that's being made, and it's just, we've all been here for the last few years getting to this point, and it's exciting. Just a thought went through my head as you were talking, and all the celebratory reasons, or the reasons to have, celebrations this year. It's 150th sesquicentennial. I think I got that right, didn't I? Yeah. Thank you. We're on the good side of the pandemic. We've got so much, downtown to celebrate now. It'd be just a thought, and you guys already may be on this, but I think 3 years ago we had a celebration of community. It was really neat, and if we can get that banana mobile back again, I'd be a happy guy. But it'd be great if as we continue to do things, to just get a sense of, as we continue to build on this in the summer months, it's just great to see the positivity in the community.
Yeah, and I think as we go through even the budget season, you'll see items presented at what we're looking to have downtown activities every month, beginning on that June 2nd all the way through October this year, truly utilizing the downtown, getting people. I mean, our goal is to get people within that 30 to 60-minute drive time to come to Vicksburg, where we have a social district. They can have a great dinner, spend some time in a park, and go to multiple places if they wish to, and participate in what Vicksburg has to offer. So,
Any other questions, statements?
I have one last comment, and that's, I think, indicative what the village will have here in the next few years. Twice last week, I ran into people walking downtown. I ask especially if I don't recognize them. In these two situations, independent and days apart from each other, one was a couple, and the other was a group of about 4 people. The couple was from Plainwell. They made it. Both groups did. It was their first time to the village of Vicksburg. The couple, and what brought them to the village was Mackenzie's Bakery. The couple then from Mackenzie's went to one of the local diners for breakfast for the first time and participated in that. I actually bumped into them on Liberty Lane East, sitting at one of the tables that were there. The group of 4 was standing outside of Oswalt Park, the fencing there, looking in. I took them to where the fence was open, but certainly with Mr. Frederick present, I will assure everyone they did not go into that area that's restricted by hard hat, vest, and everything else. But also they were here at Mackenzie's, and then to learn, they actually were from Matawan and having the social district in that. So I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I think it's indicative what's heading our way.
At the end of your report?
That will conclude it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to committee reports. Planning Commission, DDA.
We did not have a meeting since last week, but we will in May in a couple weeks.
I know we've kind of stacked up the council meetings lately, so some of these will be a little redundant. But South County Fire Authority, we did have a meeting last week. The biggest take out of it was 4 new members of the firefighters were voted on by the board. So we have 4 new members, firefighters. So, and I think 3 of them were fully trained, if I believe. So that's a huge deal because the authority doesn't have to go through and train them. They're already plug and play, so to speak. And the apparatus committee got preliminary specs on a new, I think the term they use is, it's not a fire truck, but they use, Denny, help me out, what are they? Fire apparatus. Fire apparatus, there you go. So they got preliminary specs on that. They're still a ways out on it, but they're going to be reviewing that. So that's that for that. South County Sewer Authority, Tim's not here. Do you have a report on that?
Their April meeting was canceled due to the State Township Association conference, and their next meeting will be the 4th Tuesday in May.
Thank you. Tree Committee.
We did have Okay. We did have our meeting, and Jim was there at the meeting, and we had a good discussion, and we now have a certain amount of money that we know that the village is going to be giving us in order to proceed. And so our probably next meeting, we're going to ask maybe Charlie Krill and maybe even another nursery that's in the area to come and just give us ideas on what they can do for us. So that's coming up.
Parks and Rec.
We had a meeting right before this meeting, and we just discussed what are the priorities with the Parks and Rec for the next budget year. And so we have a new member coming, Jessica Cox, and then we'll meet again next month. So that's it.
Thank you. I neglected to comment too for the South County Fire Authority. I'm actually doing a ride-along with Chief McMullen on May 16th, so hopefully it's not the big city of Chicago where you get taken for a ride, you don't come back, so. But he wants to show me all the facilities and everything, so I look forward to doing that with him, so I neglected to mention that. We'll now move on to citizens' comments. Non-agenda items only. Same as before, state your full name and address. And if you can limit your comments to 3 minutes. And if you're on Zoom and you'd like to participate, move your cursor to wave your hand. Or if you're on your phone, it's *9. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, and there's no one indicating they wish to speak.
Okay. Is there anybody in the room live that'd like to speak? No? Okay. We'll move on to village trustees time, everybody's favorite. Trustee Olson.
A piece of information, Kalamazoo County Road Commission is having a meeting May 25th at 6 p.m. at the Schoolcraft Township Hall to discuss the installation of a roundabout on the corner of 23rd Street and TU Avenue, so straight north.
No.
Yeah. That's been kind of a shock to everybody. They're going to install 3 roundabouts in Kalamazoo County this year, and I just saw the thing just as I was heading out the door on the other 2, and I didn't catch where they're going to be, but they were like within a few hundred feet of one another. We're expecting standing room only on this one. A personal note, my oldest daughter, Jackie, who's named after my dad, Jack, 10 years or so ago, she moved to Round Rock, Texas, and she's been bugging me to move down there, and I said, no, I will never live in Texas. It's not that I don't like the state, but they have tornadoes down there every 5 minutes. We don't have sharks in Lake Michigan. We don't have oil well fires in Lake Michigan. And we don't have major power outages, so I said, I think I'll stay here in Michigan and put up with the winter. Well, must be something got through to her because I got word 3 days ago she's moving back to Michigan.
Oh.
She has, as of yesterday, bought a house up off Southwest Needs, just south of Portage Central High School, and she's going to work for PRAB on Kilgore Avenue at the new building over there. And I know several people who work at PRAB, so I'm proud to say my daughter's coming home and she's going to work for a good company. So,
That's great.
yes. Well, thank you.
Trustee Wagner.
Yeah, I'd like to say welcome to Sue and Jessica to their new positions nominated for this evening. Congratulations and thank you. Speaking to Jim's comments about visitors from Matawan, I'd also encourage restaurateurs, owners of Bird Dog, if they've got restaurant business friends that would like to permanently visit Vicksburg, open a nice upscale restaurant, that'd be fantastic. I know that our community would be receptive, so I'm waiting for that phone call. And the Vicksburg Historical Society had their first annual member informational meeting on Saturday. It was a 2-hour program, and it was great. They even had presentation from the State Historical Society organization. It was very well done. Presentations on how to enhance tourism, using local assets and programming, things like that. So very cool to see that group getting little bit more active for the benefit of the surrounding community. And that's all I've got this evening. Thank you.
Trustee Reestra.
Oh, I think maybe am I on? I never turned it off, I guess. I would just like to thank Mike for all of the work that he's doing for us here, and loving to see Oswald Park just coming to life. It's very exciting to see. And also all of the work that all of the people that are hired by Vicksburg are doing, because there's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that are going on that we don't have any idea. So I just appreciate everything that people are doing. I know that Mackenzie's, I talked to Jackie, I think it was last week here, and she was saying ever since they opened, they've had like 600 people a day coming in, and that's just amazing when you think about it. So things are really moving forward, and I'm just really proud to be a Vicksburgite.
Trustee Merrill, sorry.
Okay, all right, shocked me. Okay, so I know that we're doing the village cleanup May 14th, which is a Saturday. And I had a citizen call and say, wondering, and I'm just putting this out there, if people were to put their things to the curb before they haul them on Saturday. I know it's unsightly and ugly. However, the herd gets cold and things get repurposed versus going into landfill. So I just didn't know what the feelings were on that. I know nobody likes blight, but I don't know if it'd just be 2 days of ugliness and then they haul it to the site.
I haven't put
I'm just
lot
being
of,
spontaneous.
thought. I always go to worst case scenario and work my way backwards. I'd love to be able to say, yeah, go ahead and do it, and everyone who puts it out to the curb and what doesn't get picked up, they then take to the dumpster or back into their residence. But it has the potential to cause a lot of headaches, because we're going to then be within 7 days of taking enforcement action on what's left at the curb.
So if they're aware of that there would be a ticket?
We've had no communication with residents to do that. So I don't think we have a policy that allows it currently. And
Manager Mallory, if I can step in, I remember back when we allowed, it was curbside pickup, when we had the companies would come and do it, the repurposers, I'll call them, knew in advance when the village was having that day. So, and it was pretty widely known in the village, you had to have your stuff out by a certain day for it to be picked up. And usually by then, the repurposers would come through, and pretty much everything was pretty well picked up by that point, before it ever got to Saturday when it was done. So my opinion is just my opinion, but I think if we want to explore that type of option, we need to have more communication, say for maybe next season, if we wanted to look at that, to put the word out that, you know, this is our pickup day.
yeah, and on that note, I get asked quite a bit why we don't have the curbside pickup, and neither company that comes to this area would participate in that due to staffing. It has nothing to do with cost. They won't. And then if you look, like the city of Kalamazoo, I believe, as they do it quarterly, but they have one waste hauler. So they have a single source. They go out to bid, and then within that contract that those companies are bidding on, they have to provide those services. That cost is then transferred to the citizen as a fee, where historically we've paid it through tax revenue. So if we want to look at that type of service in the future, then it would be a discussion at the council level if you'd want staff to analyze if we want to go to a single source waste hauler type community, and have that bid on, and that pick up, whether it be X number times a year, part of that contract, so.
Oh, just one more thing. I did call City of Portage, because people say, well, how are they doing it? Why, how can they get somebody to do it? Well, they didn't get anybody to do it. It's their own public works people. So I just wanted people to know in the village of Vicksburg, we're doing our due diligence. It's just that we don't have that kind of public works department, that many people. They're overworked as it is. So that is the situation this year, and who knows about the future. But I might put my stuff out the night before it goes. So we'll see.
Trustee Holmes?
Just one comment. It's Little League season. If you haven't officiated a game in a while, you can do it. And as I found on the way here, if you are looking for a reason to feel good about the world, go watch a T-ball game. And the world suddenly becomes a little brighter.
Thank you, Trustee Holmes. I hung my mask up in chest protector years ago. So, President's time, I'll take that time to just state that I appreciate you hanging with me through this meeting. So I pinch hitting for Tim, President Frisbee. And I'd like to welcome also the two new members to the boards. I wish them well and appreciate their service. And at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?